Forest Hill, a peaceful neighborhood in Queens, New York, with a population of about 90,000, is conveniently located near the city center and is known for its easy access to two famous parks, Flushing Meadows and Forest Park. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you might recognize this area as the home of Peter Parker in the comics and movies. However, on a fateful day in April 2022, while Spider-Man was busy filming, a shocking crime quietly unfolded, shattering the tranquility of this neighborhood. Welcome to Crime Documentary Files. On the morning of Saturday, April 16, 2022, New Yorkers were greeted with a fresh, crisp morning. Just past 7 a.m., a man named Glenn was leisurely walking his dog, enjoying his weekend. As he passed a street corner, Glenn noticed his dog suddenly became alert, ears perked up, refusing to move forward, and barking furiously at a black duffel bag on the roadside. Curious, Glenn approached the bag and discovered it had some red stains seeping out. Initially thinking someone had dumped a stray cat or dog, he nudged the bag and found it quite heavy. He unzipped it and immediately saw a pair of pale human legs. Still in shock and thinking it might be a mannequin, he unzipped the bag completely, only to be horrified by the sight of a human body inside. Glenn quickly called 911. The police arrived at the scene at 8:11 a.m. They found the black duffel bag containing the body of a woman. Upon examination, the medical examiner discovered numerous stab wounds on the victim's neck, torso, and arms, totaling 58 injuries. The killer had folded the victim's body and stuffed it into the duffel bag. Although the victim had no identification on her, the police soon found a lead. Blood from the bag had seeped onto the sidewalk, creating a trail that led them 2.7 miles away to a house at 7224. This house, a three-story property valued at $2.1 million, belonged to Howard Klein and his wife, Orsolia Gall. They had been married for many years and had two sons, Leo, 13, and Jamie, 17. After knocking repeatedly with no response, officers circled to the back but still saw no one through the windows. Given the blood trail led right to this house, the police suspected the female victim might be Orsolia, and the killer could still be inside. Deciding to force entry, the police discovered a few bloodstains leading to the basement. In the basement, they found more blood and a kitchen knife. Since the doors and windows of the house showed no signs of forced entry, and nothing seemed to be missing, the police believed the killer might have been someone the victim knew. The 58 stab wounds suggested the killer acted with intense hatred. Meanwhile, another team of officers found Leo, the 13-year-old, in the attic. Barefoot and in pajamas, he seemed confused and unaware of what had happened. Leo said his father, Howard, and his brother Jamie were in Oregon, and his mother had gone to a concert the previous night. Since he went to bed early, he didn't know if his mother had returned. The police handcuffed Leo and took him in for questioning. However, a few hours later, they determined the boy was not involved in his mother's death. The investigators identified the victim as Orsolia Gall, 51. Orsolia Gall was born on September 12, 1970 in Austria. She had a passion for music and travel from a young age. In 1994, at 23, she completed her degree in International Business Administration at the Budapest School of Economics. At a local Christmas party, she met Howard, a promising young man. Howard, then 25, was working at an investment bank in Budapest. They fell in love at first sight and later traveled to Thailand together. When Howard decided to return to Columbia University for his master's degree in finance, he invited Orsolia to join him and proposed to her. After moving to New York, they quickly married. They initially lived in Manhattan, where Howard founded a small financial consulting firm, and Orsolia focused on their family. After their first son Jamie was born, she became a full-time homemaker. 4 years later, their second son Leo was born. During their 20-plus years of marriage, the family led an enviable life, frequently traveling to various countries in Europe and Asia. In August 2012, the couple bought a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom home in Queens, New York, for $167 million. To friends and neighbors, the family was kind and never had conflicts with anyone. So, when news of Orsolia's murder spread, everyone was shocked. Neighbors couldn't believe that Orsolia, whom they had just greeted the previous day, was found stuffed in a duffel bag. It felt like a scene straight out of a movie. A killer's running around. Just butchered someone yards away from our officer. It's Stovart. I was just shocked. Rather shocked. I know her since I moved here to some here for 30 years. She was a lovely lady, always very attentive to her family, her kids. Just an amazing person, and she's going to miss from all of us that knew her. Through interviewing the surrounding neighbors, the officers obtained a crucial lead. A neighbor living across from Orsolia's house reported that their security camera had captured a strange scene on the day of the incident. At around 4:30 a.m. on Saturday, a man dressed in black was seen pulling a black suitcase under the dim streetlights. The shape and size of the suitcase closely resembled the one found by the police. The police suspected that Orsolia was inside that suitcase, and the man in black was likely the perpetrator. The officers contacted Howard, informing him about his wife's death. At the time, he and his 17-year-old son Jamie were in Oregon preparing for Jamie's college admission next year. Upon receiving the call from the police, the father and son immediately canceled their plans and changed their flights to return to New York. Facing Orsolia's sudden death, Howard and his son were in complete shock. By checking phone locations and their schedules, the police found that Howard had posted a tweet from his phone at 1:36 a.m. on Saturday from Portland, Oregon. Considering the distance between Portland and New York is 2,800 miles, and even by plane it takes at least 5 hours, the police concluded that Howard and Jamie couldn't have committed the crime, since Orsolia's time of death was between 12:20 and 1 a.m. Thus, they quickly ruled them out as suspects. More importantly, Howard provided another crucial lead. He mentioned that early Saturday morning, he had received a series of text messages from Orsolia's phone, which read, "Your wife put me in jail many years ago. Now I'm back. Don't call the police, or I will kill your entire family, and you will be next." These messages seem to have been sent by the killer after murdering Orsolia, using her phone. But the question remained, who was this person, and what grudge did they hold against Orsolia? Typically, when a wife is murdered, the husband is the first suspect. Although the police had clearly stated that Howard was not a suspect in this case, many media outlets continued to criticize him relentlessly. While waiting for the investigation to proceed, Howard had to endure round-the-clock media scrutiny. Occasionally, rude individuals would directly accuse him of killing Orsolia. Give me a production space. You can tell you production space. You can look at it. That's about it. Okay, let me check your productions. Okay, you're not taking my. I want to see your productions. I want to take pictures. You can see my productions. Yeah, no, I want to take pictures of them. Okay. Yeah, no, you don't. You can't touch me while you're in the. If you touch me, I'm gonna call the police. Okay. If you touch me, I'm gonna call the police. I'd like to know your name. My name is Robert. No, my name is my heart to me. I'm not giving. Exhausted both physically and mentally, Howard finally reached his breaking point after a few days and erupted on the spot. Despite the police having leads from security camera footage and text messages, the investigation was progressing slowly. Through interviews with Orsolia's family and friends, the police reconstructed the events leading up to the crime. On the day before the crime, Friday, April 15, 2022, Orsolia told her friends and son that she planned to go to the opera with some friends that evening at Lincoln Center in New York. However, by examining Orsolia's phone records, the police discovered a darker side to this seemingly pure and kind woman that no one knew about. Indeed, she did attend the opera at Lincoln Center that night, but during the performance, she was also in contact with 3 different men, none of whom were her husband. To protect Orsolia's privacy, the police did not disclose the specific contents of these messages. After the opera, Orsolia took the subway back to her Queens neighborhood. By then, it was around 11:30 p.m. Instead of heading straight home, she stopped by a small bar she frequented called Station House. There, as usual, Orsolia ordered a Moscow Mule and sat in a corner of the bar, slowly enjoying her drink alone. The bar staff noted that she left around 12:20 a.m. on Saturday, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The police believed that about 10 minutes after she arrived home around 12:30, Orsolia either opened the door for the killer, or the killer let himself in using a key hidden in the backyard grill, suggesting that the killer was very familiar with her. They went down to the basement of the house. An argument may have ensued, and the killer used a kitchen knife from Orsolia's house to stab her multiple times, killing her on the spot. To mislead the police, the killer used Orsolia's phone to send text messages to Howard. Then, he stuffed Orsolia's body into a suitcase and left the house around 4:30 a.m. He took advantage of the darkness, pulling the suitcase for about an hour to a location near Forest Park, where he abandoned it by the roadside when no one was around. The police conducted a thorough search of Forest Park near where the suitcase was found and eventually discovered a blood-stained jacket. The blood on the jacket matched Orsolia's. They speculated that the killer discarded the jacket in the park after abandoning the suitcase. To find new leads, the police began investigating the 3 men Orsolia had contacted while at the opera. Quickly, one of them drew significant attention from the police. This man was a former handyman who had worked at Orsolia's house. Interestingly, the police found a note on Orsolia's refrigerator that read, "Find a new handyman." Why did Orsolia need a new handyman? What had gone wrong with the previous one? Tracing the former handyman, the police learned that 2 years before the crime, Orsolia's family had hired a local handyman to repair their air conditioner. This man was David Bonola, 44 years old. David, originally from Mexico, had illegally immigrated to the U.S. in 2001 and had lived there for over 20 years as an undocumented immigrant. By 2022, due to family conflicts, he had left his wife and 2 children and was living alone in Richmond Hill, Queens, just a 12-minute drive from Orsolia's house. Through examining messages and call history, the police discovered that over the past 2 years, David and Orsolia had maintained a secret romantic relationship. David often commented in Spanish under Orsolia's Facebook photos, expressing his affection. Their illicit relationship involved multiple breakups and reconciliations, remaining unresolved and secretive throughout the 2 years. Their last breakup was 2 weeks before the crime. Checking David's police records, the officers found that he had a problematic personal history. He had been reported multiple times for harassment and stalking women. A girl working at Starbucks reported that David would sit in their cafe for hours, drinking coffee and making remarks about the girls working there. Importantly, he didn't stop at verbal comments. When paying, he often left love notes for the girls. At night, after their shifts, he secretly followed them. He even proposed to at least 2 girls at the cafe. Unable to tolerate the harassment, the girls called the police several times, but each time, David had already paid and left by the time the police arrived. Reviewing security cameras in David's neighborhood, the police found footage from Saturday morning, the day of the crime, at 6:05 a.m., showing David wearing a black mask and walking briskly toward his apartment. This timing matched the surveillance video from earlier at 4:30 a.m. At 4:30, David had just left Orsolia's house, still wearing a jacket. Notably, the surveillance video showed that his left hand was clearly injured and heavily bandaged. After inquiring at nearby clinics, the police found that David had visited a clinic named CTMD. The doctor who treated him informed the police that David had several deep cuts on his hand. To prevent further infection, the doctor referred David to a nearby hospital for treatment. Although David was the main suspect, the police did not arrest him immediately. They secured a search warrant from the court and quietly surveilled him. 3 days after the crime, on April 19th, the garbage collection day in David's neighborhood, the police had been watching closely. In the afternoon, when the garbage truck arrived and collected David's trash, several officers intercepted the truck nearby and searched it on the spot. In the foul-smelling trash, they found a pair of brown work boots that David had just discarded, along with several white trash bags. The blood on the boots was confirmed to be Orsolia's. In the white trash bags, the police found bandages used to wrap David's injuries and a blood-stained short-sleeved shirt. The next day, April 20th, a large police force armed with a search warrant surrounded David's apartment. Before they could even enter, David approached a police car and told the officer, "I heard you're looking for me." The officers immediately took David into custody, putting him in a white coat, and transported him to the station for interrogation. Media reporters quickly followed the police and filmed the entire arrest. When faced with police interrogation, David quickly recounted the events. He revealed that he and Orsolia had been secretly dating for over 2 years, but their relationship was tumultuous, marked by frequent breakups and reconciliations. In early April, Orsolia once again proposed ending their relationship, but David refused to accept it. On April 16th, in an attempt to salvage their relationship, David entered Orsolia's home around 12:30 a.m., trying to persuade her to change her mind. His sudden appearance greatly displeased Orsolia, as her 13-year-old son Leo was still upstairs. To keep their secret from her son, she led David to the basement to talk. Their conversation quickly escalated into a heated argument. Orsolia was adamant about ending things with David. In a fit of rage, David went upstairs, grabbed a knife from the kitchen, returned to the basement, and stabbed Orsolia multiple times. Afterward, he took Orsolia's phone and sent threatening messages to Howard, hoping to mislead the police investigation later. After finding a sports duffel bag in the house, David stuffed Orsolia's body inside and dragged it to Forest Park. David's initial confession largely aligned with the police investigation findings. However, the very next day, David suddenly changed his story. This time he claimed he went to Orsolia's house not to salvage their relationship, but because he discovered she had infected him with HIV. He said he came to confront her. After arguing in the basement, David alleged that Orsolia went to the kitchen for the knife, threatening to kill him. He claimed he wrestled the knife away and stabbed her in self-defense. Naturally, the police didn't believe his deceitful words. In April 2022, faced with second-degree murder charges, David pleaded not guilty. 7 months later, on November 2, 2022, following his lawyer's advice, David reluctantly agreed to a plea deal with prosecutors. His charge was reduced from second-degree murder to first-degree manslaughter. On November 16, 2022, the judge sentenced David, 44, to 25 years in prison. In a media interview, Police Chief Belinda stated that although they had sufficient evidence and were confident they could secure a harsher sentence for David, both Orsolia's and David's families expressed a desire to quickly close this tragic chapter and move on with their lives. Therefore, the police ultimately agreed to the compromise between both parties. Case been any different than any of the other horrific cases that your office has had to deal with? Every homicide is horrific, and every homicide cuts a family deeply. So no, this is not different in that way. I think the interesting part about this is that on the manslaughter one, the victim pleaded to the top down. He's getting an action down attempt to explore the manslaughter. And so, in that respect, it is a just result. After the case concluded, many internet users focused their criticism on Orsolia, while making little comment about the perpetrator David. They condemned Orsolia for her immoral lifestyle, her deceit, and for cheating on her husband, which they believed led to the subsequent events. While there is some truth to these accusations, the complexities of marriage and family issues often run much deeper. As the victim of this crime, perhaps Orsolia deserves more empathy when being judged. Ultimately, David, the killer, is the one who deserves condemnation. This story serves as a reminder that every action has consequences, and sometimes poor choices can lead to irrevocable tragedies. Instead of just criticizing or judging, maybe we should take a moment to reflect on the values of honesty, trust, and responsibility in relationships. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe Orsolia deserves criticism for her personal mistakes, or should we focus more on David's criminal actions? Share your opinions in the comments below, and join the discussion about the lessons we can learn from this heartbreaking story. See you in the next video on Crime Documentary Files, where we bring you real stories and deep insights into crime and justice.